Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Joffy Noodle Legs with another noodle film review. Tonight we're looking at a forgotten slasher film. A film that no one ever talks about, and it's a really cool slasher movie. And on top of that, it's a British slasher movie, which are very, very rare. So tonight we're looking at F. Now, this came out, I think, in the early 2000s or something like that. It was in the height of here in Britain where we had the hoodies, they were called. They were the teenage sort of lads that walk around with their hoods up all the time, their sort of trousers halfway down and all this kind of thing. And they were called the hoodies. And this is a slasher film with a hoodie sort of killer. And it's based here in England at a school. We see the main teacher in the film. He's in his classroom and he's sort of like, he grades one of the children's or one of the teenagers' grades as an F, which is fail. And apparently you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do like I think it's supposed to be like telling them to resit it. But anyway, he marks it an F. And the kid doesn't like it, and he ends up going up to the teacher and attacking him and headbutting him, and his sort of nose is pouring with sort of blood. And this is how the sort of film starts. And so the teacher then takes some time off after that, and then returns back to school in front of the board of like the headmaster and the schooling board, and they want him to take a break. They don't want him to leave his job. They just want him to take a break because the kid that done it is leaving at the end of the term. So they want him to have a break from school till the end of term, until that kid has left. Because the parents are threatening to sue him and the school for giving him an F and sort of like humiliating him in front of all of his sort of school colleagues. Anyway, he reluctantly goes on this sort of like break, and then he starts getting into alcohol and drinking quite a bit and getting self-absorbed into himself, and he returns back to school after about sort of like in 8 months or something, and he's really changed. He's like weak, and the kids are starting to sort of pick on him. He's broken up with his wife, and his daughter both moved out as well because of obviously the drinking problem and all these issues going on. And he's become a bit of a sad case, really. Anyway, he goes back to the school. We see him meeting his sort of wife, who's sort of like asking him a favour on his daughter's behalf. It's her birthday coming up, and he normally sees her at the weekends, but she doesn't want to go because it's her birthday. She wants to go to a gig somewhere, and he's a bit reluctant to, but he said he'll think about it. Anyway, he goes back into school, and he's sort of like being shunned really by all the other teachers and of course the pupils. They're sort of humiliating him a little bit, to be honest. They're being rowdy in his class and not giving him any sort of respect as a teacher, but he's not standing up for himself, and they're sort of like running riot in his classroom. Anyway, he has to go to his to the headmistress's room to speak about his class because he's not been submitting all the results in on time, and she's also said that she's received complaints from other teachers about the noise from his classroom and all this, and he says he'll get on top of it, he'll be fine. So she says okay. So he and they're also saying that he's been bringing alcohol into school, and some of the teachers are commenting that he smells of alcohol. But anyway, we see him in a class, and one of the lads throws like this sort of like roll of paper at it, hits him on the back, and his daughter's still there in the class. she's still in his class. He goes over to her because she's just doodling in her book, not doing anything, not paying any attention. Anyway, he shuts her book and gives her detention. And she thinks, and I think he's done it deliberately, so he can spend time with her, because they're not getting any time together. So she's now got detention. So within, in this sort of like in the school evening time, we see sort of like there's still people about in the evening. We've got security there. Now, I've never seen that before. I mean, when I was at school, there wasn't such thing as security at school, but there obviously is now. And there's like, obviously our teacher's there with his daughter with detention. There's a few other teachers. There's a young, pretty teacher who's going to use the gym equipment. So there's a few people still around the school. And then one of the security guards goes out to have a walk outside on a sort of smoke break, and he gets attacked by a hoodie. We don't see him. Obviously, it's a young with his hood up. All we see is like the hood, and it's all blacked out, so we don't know who it is. You know, it's like that sort of thing. So that's all we see. Anyway, he gets attacked, and then he's taken. We see him sort of like being slid away from the car park area. Then we cut to the detention room where we see our teacher and daughter there, and she's messing around on her phone, and he's told her to get off the phone, and she just ignores him. So he goes over and takes the phone off her, and he then starts shouting at him, having a go at him, saying he's a rubbish dad. She doesn't want nothing to do with him. And she says, Mum says she never wants to get back to you, ever. And he turns around and gives her a pimp hand and slaps her one. And so she walks out the room with the ump, and he's sort of like left in that room. We then cut to our security guard that was being attacked outside, and he wakes up. And he's been padlocked and locked in one of those massive, big, huge wheelie bins. So he's been locked in one of these by the hoodie. How he's managed to get him in there, I don't know, because, you know, he probably outsized him. Anyway, he's in this wheelie bin locked in. And then we see all this sort of fluid coming into the wheelie bin, and it's actually lighter fuel. The hoodie is spraying lighter fuel onto the guy. And the guy's trying so hard to get out of this bin, but he can't. And then the next thing we know, he throws a match in, and then this guy suffers a horrible death, being burnt in this wheelie bin, and he can't get out. And so we've got our sort of first kill on our hands. Then we sort of catch up back into the into the school, where we see the daughter of the teacher. She's in the reception using the phone, trying to get out, asking her boyfriend to come and pick her up and take her home. And then the phone goes dead, because obviously the phone line's been cut. And that's what I'm going to tell you. So this film then turns into a really sort of stalking slasher film, where all these sort of people that are still at the school are being picked off one by this hoodie or hoodies. I don't know how many there is. Is it just one, or is there more? But yeah, it's a little bit like a home invasion sort of slasher, but at a school, at a senior school. And it's great. It's really suspenseful. It's really, really cool. When I see films like this, I think Britain should do more slasher films, because they're really good at it. When we do get a slasher film from Britain, they're generally really, really cool. And this one is fantastic. It's really one of those films that went under the radar. I saw this in a cinema in Stevenage when it came out, and I was flabbergasted. I thought, wow, this is really intense, really cool, a really good film. And it just sort of disappeared under the radar. And I've had it on Blu-ray for quite a while now, and I've just was just looking through my films the other day and I saw that. I thought, my God, I've not watched that for about 4 or 5 years. So I dug it out and I watched it and I still love it. It's brilliant. The pluses of the film, it looks amazing. It's really well shot. It's a great looking film. It's a really sort of modern day slasher looking, really cool. It's really well acted. The main actor, I've seen him in hundreds of things. I think he was also in. I'm sure he was the dart player in American Werewolf in London. You made me miss. I'm sure it's him. But anyway, it's fantastic. Great cast, and the story is it's scary. It really is, and it's quite modern because you look at today, and not necessarily in England, but in America, of all these sort of shootings and sort of horrible things that go on in high schools in America. This is kind of a little bit like it, not as severe as like someone going in with a gun and shooting him, but this is someone stalking the people at this school at night. And it's an amazing slasher film. It does have some gore in it, not a lot, but the kills are pretty cool. I do like them. And I think if it had too much gore in it, I think it would take it away from the suspense of the film. And there is a few sort of jump scare moments. Now, I love jump scare moments. I think they can make a horror film. I know some people don't like them. I know a channel I watch called Horror Hands. He says he doesn't particularly like jump scares. I love them. I think they're one of the pure essence of a good horror film. If a horror film can make you jump, or can make you hide behind your cushion, or can make you feel afraid, then that's fantastic. That's what horror's about. Horror's not about gore or stuff like that. That's just one part of it. That just comes along with it. True horror is jump scares. It's being scared witless. It's being afraid. It's being made to feel the hairs on your neck stand up. That's a horror film to me. And I like a jump scare. And this has a few in there. Sort of like, you see the sort of like the hoodie in the background behind him, very sort of Michael Myers-y sort of thing. But I quite like that. But it's original. It's like an original story. And I've not seen many horror. Yes, there's loads of high school sort of slasher films, but in England we don't have hardly any horror films based in school. So this was a great one to see. So I'm going to score this a excellent watch and give it an 8 out of 10. I think that's a really cool score for such a great slasher film. And we really need more British slasher movies. There's just not enough of them, because that one's really good. 8 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you think of it. It is one of those films not many of you might have seen, because it is one that sort of went under the radar. It came in the cinema for about 2 or 3 weeks and then disappeared, and then came out sort of like 3 or 4 months later on DVD and Blu-ray, and again disappeared, went under the radar. If you went into HMV and things, you will not see F in the shelves anywhere. CEX is probably, if you want to pick it up, CEX is the place to pick it up. And I think it's quite cheap there as well. I don't think it's expensive to pick up. So I would recommend you picking it up. If you want a good British horror movie and a slasher film, F's your film. Guys, check out some horror channels for me till my next video. Check out Horror Hands, The Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzlewell, I Am the Ice Lord, Sarah of Horror, Cat Watches Horror Movies, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House, and a massive shout out to my slasher loving lad, Lemon Lord. Until next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I see you all soon.